Hey fellow explorers, I'm at LAX airport today and I'm going to be sharing with you 11 of the most common mistakes that I see people make when they buy suitcases. I'd also like to thank Level 8 for sponsoring this video. Today I'm traveling with their Voyager Carry-On suitcase, one of their best-selling suitcases. You definitely wouldn't make a mistake if you buy Level 8, but more about them later. On to our first mistake. Now certainly one of the most common mistakes I see travelers make, particularly first-time travelers, is buying luggage that is cheap. And by cheap I don't mean cheap in price, I mean cheaply made. Certainly anything you find at Target or Walmart's going to be cheaply made, but you can't just look at the price or where you bought it from, because this suitcase I saw at Disney World just a couple weeks ago, a really cheaply made suitcase. How do I know? Look at those wheels at the bottom. It's a 4-wheel spinner suitcase, but each wheel only has one small wheel. That's going to be awful on cobblestones, rough asphalt. What you really want if you're getting a 4-wheel spinner suitcase is you want double wheels. Take a look at these wheels. 2 wheels on each side, and really the bigger the better. The bigger your wheels, the better it's gonna roll. The other things to look for in a well-made suitcase include sturdy handles, reinforced corners, and also sturdy looking zippers. You know, it's hard to tell when you're just looking at a shop, but if you look and compare, you know, feel the material. Does it feel well made? Does it feel rigid? Or does it feel super flimsy and that the first time you're gonna check it in, everything's just gonna fall right off? Mistake number 2 is thinking that bigger is always better. And let me tell you, a bigger suitcase, yes, it allows you to put more stuff in it, but it's not always better. Particularly for checked-in suitcases, the bigger it gets, the heavier it gets. You can put a lot of stuff in there, which means you can put a lot of stuff in there. Most airlines have some weight limits for the price of their free bag or their reasonably priced bag, and by the time you exceed something like 50 pounds, then the price is exorbitant. You know, it might be $50 to check it normal weight, but it's $200 to check it if it's overweight. Also, if it's too big, you'll have a hard time putting it in the back of a taxi. If you're traveling with a lot of people, don't underestimate the size of your luggage in the back of a car. So also, if you're riding trains, if you need to put it like in the overhead bin or in the small luggage compartments of bins, sometimes a smaller size check-in could actually be better than the bigger one. The third mistake that people make is they think that all carry-ons will actually carry it on. Just because the manufacturer calls the carry-on doesn't mean you'll actually be able to take it through the gate and put it in the overhead on your plane. It seems like every different airline has a different size of suitcase that they allow on their planes. One size for the overhead bin, one size for the under-seat storage. When you measure it, when the airline says it, that's gonna be the dimensions of the suitcase, including the handles and including the wheels, so make sure you're looking at those dimensions. Now, how could you possibly know the dimensions of all the airlines you're gonna fly on? You won't, but take a look at the dimensions of the airlines you fly regularly and get a suitcase that meets those dimensions. If you are flying the standard big American carriers, American, United, Delta, they tend to be much less strict on the size of carry-ons. Oftentimes, if it fits, they'll let it go. Only when you're going by the gate, if it looks ridiculously large, they put it in the sizer. But if you're flying an airline like Frontier or Spirit or these discount carriers, they are notorious for sizing your bag and having you put in the bag sizer. Why? Because they want to charge you more for bringing an oversized carry-on. Oh, by the way, these things also apply to checked-in bags. Most airlines have a standard size for checked-in bags, and once it's bigger than that size, it becomes an oversized bag. The difference in checked-in bags versus carry-on bags, the checked-in bag dimensions are usually what they call linear dimensions. And so for a carry-on, they will tell you the max width, length, and height, or depth and height, but for a check-in bag, they will often tell you linear dimensions, which means that you add up the height, the width, and the depth together, and if that number is less than their maximum check-in size, you're good to go. Mistake number 4 is not considering the weight of the suitcase itself. Now, especially if you're flying those discount carriers, every airline has some maximum weight before a bag is overweight, but the discount carriers often go a step further in weighing your carry-on bags in addition to your checked-in bags. And so definitely pay attention to the weight of the bag, because you might find, particularly in the discount carriers, the weight of the bag could be half of your total weight allowance, and then you actually can't put much stuff in. While you might want one of those fancy aluminum cases, you might find out they're not that useful, because all you'll be able to fly with is the aluminum case. So it is worthwhile, not just for you being able to lift it and put it in the overhead if it's lighter, but it's also good if you're on one of those carriers that's really strict with the weight of the luggage. The fifth mistake is not considering your destination terrain when buying your suitcase. Not all suitcases are good for every destination. What do I mean? Well, if you're going to some place that is snowy, sandy, or dusty, wheels might not be your friend. Wheels aren't going to work. They're not going to help if you're going around in snow. If you're going around in snow, you might prefer a backpack that you can put on your back, or you might prefer a bag that you can carry around your shoulder. Now, the wheels on the bottom, if you're like, well, Chris, I go to those places occasionally, then you're gonna wanna make sure you've got one that has good handles, not just on the top, but also on the sides, because it's much easier to carry a suitcase this way than it is from the top for long periods of time. By the way, speaking of this suitcase, I wanna share a little bit more with you about Level 8. This is the Voyager suitcase, one of their best-selling suitcases, and I've been traveling with Level 8 suitcases for the past couple years. I started with this one, the Voyager, because why? It's yellow. I love the yellow color, but what I really like about Level 8 suitcases is they make good quality suitcases at reasonable prices, and over the years I've had the opportunity to try lots of their different suitcases, and honestly, each one of them has been a pleasure to travel with at a great price point. Now, if you do consider picking up a Level 8 suitcase, I've got a sweet discount code in the description for you. If you use that and the link below, you can score yourself 20% off if you buy before the end of November for their Black Friday sale. And if you want to know more about this suitcase, I've got a whole review of this one and their second bestseller, the Luminous. You'll find the link to that in the description or at the end of this video. Now, I also want to talk about 4 wheels versus 2 wheels. When are these things going to be useful? 4 wheels are going to be really useful when you're traveling on airplanes, when you're traveling on trains, when you need to take your suitcase sideways and go down an aisle. If you're not, 2-wheelers can be pretty good. If you're just in open spaces like this, the pro of 2-wheelers is you actually get more space inside the suitcase because they don't have to cut out space for 4 wheels. The con is that the 2-wheelers, if you're going through narrow aisles, will go bump, 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 and you'll generally have to carry the 2-wheeler on the trains and through the airplanes. If you're going to a wet destination, then you're definitely gonna want a hard side suitcase. Those nylon suitcases, if it's really wet, they're gonna soak right through. Mistake number 6 is prioritizing style over functionality. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a good looking suitcase. What I like even more than that is a functional suitcase. When you're looking at your suitcase, don't just look that it's pretty, or if you see that it's pretty, dive in a little bit deeper and make sure it's gonna be useful for your type of travel. You can look at things like the form factor of it. Is it a standard suitcase? Is it a trunk style suitcase that you can put more stuff in? Does it have a staggered top or a bottom? Does it open like a clamshell? Does it have a small lid that opens on top? If you're traveling with a backpack or a bag, can you stack it on top? Is that something that's important to you? There's a lot of functional things that you should look at first and then look at style after that. Or if you do look at style, don't just be blinded by the fact that it's pink and pretty, but make sure it's useful too. I would also beware of the really luxurious brand names, because you know what? A Louis Vuitton suitcase tells me, it says rob me, because there's gonna be some really expensive things inside. Mistake number 7 is not considering the pockets and the organization of the suitcase, interior and exterior. Not all suitcases are just like this, a kind of rectangle. Some suitcases will give you a pocket right here on the outside. That can be really useful if you're carrying a laptop with you and you want to have it easily accessible. Although it can be not useful if you aren't carrying a laptop. That's just wasted space and wasted material for that pocket. Also pay attention to inside the suitcases, how they look and how they organize and how they pack. Now, for example, on the inside of this suitcase, there are 2 zipper closure mechanisms for either side. This side is a mesh that you can see through. This side has 2 different pockets. Sometimes you'll find interior pockets. Sometimes you will find things that are cinched down. Sometimes you will find suitcases that come with interior dividers. Think about how you're traveling, what you like, and get the one that's right for you. There's a reason why they come in so many styles. There's not one that's right for everybody. Different strokes for different folks. The 8th mistake I see people make is not considering how well their suitcase can actually clean when it gets dirty, because inevitably when you're traveling, it's gonna get dirty. If you're checking it in, it's gonna get way dirtier than if you're just carrying it on. But if it's a kind of flat material, glossy is gonna be the easiest to clean, matte gonna be a little bit harder to clean, fabric likely going to be the hardest to clean. Darker colors seem to stay the cleanest. They're technically not. They get just as dirty. You just don't see all the black stuff that comes from the airport and all the black stuff that comes from the baggage carousels. That is why so many suitcases come in black, because they look the newest for the longest time. If you choose to get a light color, just know that that light color is gonna get really quite dirty, and you'll probably have to clean it when you're done with your trip. What do I use to clean my suitcases when I'm done? I'll use simple green to start if that works, and if that doesn't work and I need to do some more significant cleaning, then I will use industrial strength Goo Gone or Goof Off, but just a little bit, because I don't want to take off the color finish of the suitcase too. Mistake number 9 is not realizing that zippers aren't the only closure and opening mechanisms for suitcases. Certainly the cheaper ones, zippers are going to be the standard, but zippers are probably the #1 thing to break on suitcases, particularly ones that you check in. If you want something a little bit more sturdy, consider a suitcase with latches. Suitcase with latches also open and close a lot faster, because if you've got zippers, you gotta find them, you gotta zip them around the whole thing. And if you've got latches, you just push 1 or 2 buttons to open it and then just push the latches closed. If you're like someone who's really short on time and always in a rush, latches are gonna be it for you. My pro tip though is, even if you don't wanna lock your suitcase, honestly, I find TSA locks to be a waste of time to use. I do clip them in, because they're gonna be a little bit safer there when they're checking in or hitting things than if your zippers are just flying around. The 10th mistake that people make is not paying attention to the return policy and the warranty. And warranties, return policies really vary widely across the industry, from a year to lifetime. You know what, generally the longer a warranty, that's gonna be an indicator of quality, because if the manufacturer stands behind the suitcase for a long time, they're probably making it pretty well. Also, just pay attention to what that return timeline is, because I know there's some of you out there, you buy it, you get it, you look at it, you find out it's not exactly what you're looking for. Pay attention to how many days you have before you can send it back. And mistake number 11 is going to be buying a suitcase that looks like everybody else's. Those black suitcases that you get from Costco, you get from Target, you get from Walmart. You know, you and about 1 million other people have those suitcases. The problem with that is not you mistaking your suitcase for other people's suitcases or theirs for yours. The problem with that is other people thinking your suitcase is theirs. I have been in so many situations, particularly in like rental car shuttles, where there's 3 suitcases and they all look the same, and somebody takes one that they think is theirs, but turns out it's someone else's, and both those people are very sad, because it turns out it's not going to be their stuff inside. So what do? Well, you get a suitcase that looks different than other ones, a different and unique color. I like unique colors on my suitcases. If you don't like unique colors, that's okay. Then I would just encourage you to decorate your suitcase. Put some stickers on it, put some ribbons on it, make sure it stands out so that other people recognize your suitcase as not being theirs. Well, fellow explorers, if you want to dive into more Level 8 suitcase reviews, you can find a whole bunch more in my review playlist right here. If you want to just see about this suitcase, the Voyager, you'll find it right here. And if you want to see more of where I was recording this, the International Terminal LAX, you'll find my full tour of this airport terminal right here. Well, fellow explorers, as usual, I won't say goodbye, because I'll see you in the next video.